Let's get real. The 1980s didn't just crank out blockbusters, it hid some of the wildest, most brilliant movies where hardly anyone was looking. Think you know 80s cinema? Think again. These are the films that slipped past the multiplex stampede, buried under sequels and explosions, waiting for a second shot at blowing your mind. How many have you actually seen, and how many are about to become your new obsession? Stick around, what you're about to discover is anything but ordinary. To Live and Die in LA 1985. Drop every cop cliché you think you know. William Friedkin's To Live and Die in LA throws the badge out the window, peels out onto the sunburned streets, and dares you to keep up. This isn't your parents' police procedural. It's a neon-soaked fever dream where the lines between right and wrong blur faster than the Los Angeles skyline at sunset. William Peterson plays Richard Chance, a Secret Service agent whose personal code is more twisted than any criminal he's chasing. When his partner gets killed just days before retirement, a move that would be pure cheese in lesser hands, Chance becomes obsessed with taking down Willem Dafoe's Rick Masters, a slick, unpredictable counterfeiter who turns fake money into pure art. Dafoe, all cold menace and creative chaos, steals every scene with that reptilian smirk. But this isn't just a showdown between good and evil, it's a war between two sides that start looking eerily similar as the film rockets forward. But let's talk about that car chase. If you thought The French Connection set the bar, Friedkin outdoes himself here. Imagine engines howling, cars skidding through industrial wastelands, and then, just when you think your heart can't take it, Chance blasts the wrong way down a packed freeway. There's no CGI. No fake-outs, just raw, rubber-burning chaos. It's the kind of scene that makes your palms sweat and your jaw drop, even 4 decades later. And it's not just the action. The film crackles with tension from the first note of Wang Chung's pulsing synth soundtrack to the closing shot that dares you to judge anyone's choices. Shot on a lean budget, To Live and Die in LA didn't just push boundaries, it ran them over at 100 miles per hour. The critics loved it, but mainstream audiences blinked and missed it, distracted by bigger, flashier fare. Want to know what Los Angeles really looked like at the edge of the American dream? Start here. In Friedkin's world, justice is just another illusion, and every hero is one step away from being the villain. Repo Man If Repo Man was a car, it'd be a rusty Chevy with a trunk full of alien secrets and a dashboard that flickers with electric weirdness. This film doesn't just break the rules, it roasts them, buries them in the desert, and then writes a punk anthem about it. Forget every safe, predictable movie about growing up. This is the 80s through a cracked, radioactive lens. Emilio Estevez stars as Otto, a bored Los Angeles punk who's just lost his job, his girlfriend, and every shred of hope that life will ever make sense. Enter Harry Dean Stanton's Bud, a repo man who drags Otto into the subculture of repo work, a world where cars get snatched in the dead of night, everyone's hustling, and nobody really tells the truth. If you're looking for a coming-of-age movie with clear morals, keep moving. Repo Man is a fever dream of government conspiracies, TV evangelists, paranoid street preachers, and a glowing 1964 Chevy Malibu that might, just might, hold the answer to everything. Director Alex Cox doesn't just fill the movie with offbeat characters. He unleashes a barrage of wild ideas, from generic brand everything, cans just labeled food, to a punk soundtrack that's as loud and rowdy as the story itself. Every scene bristles with satire and surreal humor. Watch closely as Otto bounces from one bizarre encounter to the next, his worldview melting into something that's part sci-fi, part punk manifesto, and part cosmic joke. The film never explains itself, and that's exactly the point. When Repo Man landed in theaters, it confused mainstream audiences and became a word-of-mouth legend almost overnight. Today, it's a cult classic, quoted, referenced, and worshipped by anyone who's ever felt like the world was a little too weird to take seriously. The message? Sometimes, the only way to make sense of chaos is to just roll down the window and drive straight through it. This isn't just a movie. It's a challenge to every rule you thought you knew. If you want a film that sticks with you like a boot print on wet concrete, buckle up. Because Repo Man doesn't slow down for anyone. Streets of Fire 1984. Imagine a world lit by neon and soaked in rain, where rock and roll is a weapon and the only law is what you make yourself. Streets of Fire isn't just a movie, it's an adrenaline shot straight to your nostalgia. A fever dream where 1950s greasers slam headlong into 1980s music video madness. Walter Hill directs this cult classic like he's conjuring a comic book that somehow came alive, packed with smoke, sweat, and the kind of style that dares you to keep up. The story. Diane Lane is Ellen Aim, a rock goddess with a voice that could shatter glass, kidnapped mid-concert by a biker gang led by Willem Dafoe, at his most menacing, all-leather spikes and ice-cold stares. Enter Michael Pare as Tom Cody, the tough-as-nails ex-flame, summoned back to his old neighborhood to do one thing: rescue Ellen and settle a score that feels written in fire and heartbreak. The plot is pure rescue mission, but the details are everything. Motorcycles blaze through city streets, fists fly, explosions paint the sky electric blue, and all the while, Ry Cooder's scorching soundtrack pounds in your chest, mixing doo-wop, synths, and rock until you forget what decade you're in. But here's the twist. Streets of Fire is a fairy tale for misfits. Its city is nowhere and everywhere, a place where time and style collide, and every corner hides a fight, a love story, or a neon-lit legend. The dialogue is pulpy, the visuals are pure MTV, and every frame screams that movies can be cool, weird, and romantic, all at once. Critics didn't get it, and the box office left it out in the rain, but years later, fans know the truth. This is a hidden jewel, with a cult so devoted they'll shout every lyric back at the screen. So, what are you waiting for? If you ever wanted to step inside the world's greatest album cover, Streets of Fire is the closest you'll ever get. And trust me, you won't want to come back. After Hours 1985. Ever had a night go so wrong, you started to wonder if the universe itself was playing a prank just on you? Welcome to After Hours, Martin Scorsese's strangest, funniest, most anxiety-inducing ride through New York City's underground. This isn't a crime epic or a mobster saga. Instead, it's one unlucky office worker's wild plunge down a rabbit hole of weirdness, one that keeps getting deeper, darker, and more absurd as the hours tick by. Griffin Dunne plays Paul Hackett, a regular guy just looking for a little adventure after work. A random flirtation at a diner leads him downtown, and suddenly Paul's life explodes into chaos. Lost keys, psychotic artists, vengeful punks, a sadistic bouncer, a jealous husband, and more surreal encounters than a month's worth of nightmares. Every time he thinks he's found his way out, the city swallows him up again, murkier, stranger, and funnier than before. Scorsese's direction is electric, darting through the late-night city with the dizzy energy of a fever dream. The camera never rests, and neither does your pulse. It's a comedy, yes, but not the gentle kind. Every character is a little bit unhinged. Every twist piles on more dread and more absurdity, until you're laughing out of pure desperation. The script never lets up, and by dawn, you'll be as exhausted and bewildered as Paul himself. Audiences in 1985 didn't know what to make of it. Critics raved, but the film never found the mainstream love it deserved. After Hours is the ultimate bad night gone worse movie, a reminder that sometimes the strangest stories are just one missed subway stop away. Watch it late, watch it alone, and the next time you think your evening can't possibly get any weirder, remember Paul Hackett and count your blessings. Vampire's Kiss 1988. Some movies take risks. Vampire's Kiss flings itself off the cliff and laughs all the way down. If you've only ever seen Nicolas Cage meme clips, buckle up, because this is the performance that made him a legend and a walking question mark all in one. Nothing you know about vampires, office life, or sanity itself will prepare you for what's coming. Cage plays Peter Lowe, a publishing executive with a perfectly crumbling life. One night, after a truly bizarre encounter, he becomes convinced he's turning into a vampire. What follows is a descent into total madness. Cage eats a cockroach on camera, howls in a fake accent, and storms through the city in a thrift store Dracula cape, looking for blood that's probably just in his imagination. Or is it? The brilliance of Vampire's Kiss is how it keeps you guessing. Is Peter actually transforming? Or is he just losing his mind one fluorescent office light at a time? The movie is both hilarious and disturbing, often at the same time. It skewers yuppie culture, the emptiness of corporate ambition, and the loneliness that bubbles beneath the surface of big city life. Every scene is unpredictable, loaded with dark humor, awkward silences, and moments of surreal energy that nobody but Cage could deliver. Director Robert Bierman never blinks, letting Cage spiral from eccentric to deranged with wild, fearless commitment. Vampire's Kiss barely registered in theaters, but its cult status exploded over the decades. Now it's a must-see for anyone who likes their comedies weird, their horror unclassifiable, and their performances dialed to 11. The result? A movie that's less about vampires and more about the madness that lurks in everyday life. Don't just watch it. Survive it. Near Dark 1987. Think you've seen every vampire story there is? Near Dark will make you think again, then make you wish every horror movie was this raw, romantic, and genuinely dangerous. Kathryn Bigelow's cult classic grabs two genres, Western and vampire, and splices them together with a jolt of midnight lightning. The result is a movie that feels like a fever dream you never want to wake up from. Adrian Pasdar stars as Caleb, a small-town farm kid whose life gets hijacked by a mysterious drifter named May. One stolen kiss later, he's sucked into a roving pack of vampires, led by the terrifying Jesse, Lance Henriksen, and his deadly crew. These aren't cape-wearing, castle-dwelling monsters. They're nomads, living in battered RVs, feeding by moonlight, and leaving blood and destruction in their wake. The violence is gritty, the tension razor-sharp, and the love story at its heart is anything but sweet. Bigelow's direction is relentless. She paints the American Southwest with a mix of dust, neon, and spilled blood, and the atmosphere is as thick as desert heat. The cast is stacked with scene stealers. Bill Paxton is unforgettable as Severin, the wildest, nastiest vampire you'll ever meet. There's a legendary bar scene that'll make you wince and laugh at the same time. Nobody walks out clean, and nothing is predictable. The film didn't make a splash on release, overshadowed by bigger, shinier horror movies. But those who found it never forgot. If you want a vampire flick that bites hard and refuses to let go, Near Dark is the one. It's stylish, brutal, and strangely full of twisted romance. Just don't watch it with the lights out. Miracle Mile 1988. What if your whole life changed with one random phone call? Miracle Mile starts with that simple setup and then detonates it. Part romantic drama, part apocalyptic nightmare. This is one of the decade's most overlooked thrillers, a film that grabs you by the nerves and doesn't let go until the world might actually end. Anthony Edwards plays Harry, a sweet, awkward guy who's just met the love of his life, Julie, played by Mare Winningham. Their story is all quirky charm until Harry answers a ringing payphone outside a diner on Wilshire Boulevard and hears a stranger frantically warn him that nuclear war is starting in less than an hour. Is it a prank, a mistake, or the deadliest deadline anyone's ever faced? From that second, the movie races through one surreal, real-time night in Los Angeles as Harry scrambles to find Julie and escape before the bombs drop. What sets Miracle Mile apart is how it moves, from romance to suspense to outright panic, all in a heartbeat. The city is alive with weird characters, chance encounters, and split-second decisions that could mean life or death. Director Steve DeJarnat creates an atmosphere of growing dread, using synth music and neon lights to paint LA as both magical and menacing. The sense of time running out is relentless, making every moment matter. This film didn't get the love it deserved on release. Too dark for mainstream romance fans, Too offbeat for traditional thriller crowds, it became a word-of-mouth favorite for those who like their movies with a shot of existential adrenaline. If you're looking for a hidden gem that feels like a waking dream at the end of the world, Miracle Mile delivers. No Sleep, The Hidden, 1987. You think you've seen wild sci-fi thrillers? The Hidden takes the cake and runs off with it, disguised as a bank robber in a stolen Ferrari. This is the kind of movie that's so off the wall, you're never quite sure whether to laugh, gasp, or just cheer. It's a blend of buddy cop action, body-snatching aliens, and 80s swagger so potent you'll wish you could bottle it. Kyle MacLachlan is the new guy in town, an FBI agent who's just a bit off. He teams up with Michael Nuri's street-smart LA detective to solve a crime wave that makes no sense. A string of ordinary citizens suddenly turning into unstoppable criminals with a taste for sports cars, heavy metal, and absolute mayhem. The twist? There's something inside them, something not from this planet. The result is a breakneck chase through the city as the two cops try to stop an alien parasite that hops from body to body, leaving chaos in its wake. Director Jack Shoulder keeps the energy high and the stakes higher. Gunfights in strip clubs, car chases through traffic, and sudden bursts of gruesome humor make this a thrill ride that never slows down. But what really hooks you is the chemistry, MacLachlan's weirdness versus Nuri's skepticism, two very different heroes united by pure survival instinct. The Hidden wasn't a box office hit, but it found its audience among late-night movie fans and sci-fi lovers who wanted something smart, stylish, and just a little bit bonkers. Today, it's regarded as one of the sharpest, fastest, and most inventive movies of the decade. Want proof that 80s cinema still has surprises up its sleeve? Start here and don't blink. Something Wild, 1986. If you ever wanted to know what it feels like to have your life hijacked by pure chaos, buckle up for Something Wild. This movie starts like a quirky road trip and ends up somewhere between a nightmare, a romance, and the world's most unpredictable crime spree. Jonathan Demme doesn't just direct, he orchestrates, blending screwball comedy with nerve-jangling suspense, all soundtracked to a wall of perfect 80s music. Jeff Daniels is Charles Driggs, an uptight office worker with the world's safest routine, until Melanie Griffith's Lulu blows through his life like a Category 5 hurricane. She's got a jet-black bob, a fake accent, and a taste for trouble. One minute he's skipping out on a lunch check, the next he's flying down the highway, handcuffed to a woman who might be his dream or his doom. Demme layers the movie with roadside diners, small-town reunions, and the feeling that the ground keeps shifting under your feet. But the wild ride gets even wilder when Ray Liotta enters as Ray, Lulu's volatile ex, the kind of guy who turns every room cold just by walking in. Suddenly, the film lurches from eccentric adventure to tense thriller. What started as a lark becomes deadly serious, and nobody, not the characters, not the audience, knows what's coming next. It's romantic, violent, hilarious, and unnerving, often in the very same scene. Critics loved Something Wild, but it was too offbeat for the mainstream crowd. Years later, fans and filmmakers alike call it one of the decade's most original movies. It's the cinematic equivalent of jumping in a stranger's car with no idea where you'll end up and loving every crazy minute. If you think you know where this story is going, trust me, you don't. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, 1984. What if your favorite childhood comic book, your dad's old sci-fi serials, and the weirdest daydream you ever had all collided at 90 miles an hour? Welcome to The Adventures of Buckaroo Bonsai Across the Eighth Dimension. This isn't just a movie, it's a glorious, absurd blast of creativity, where no idea is too weird and every scene comes with a wink. Peter Weller stars as Buckaroo Banzai, a neurosurgeon, physicist, test pilot, and rock star. If that sounds ridiculous, it's supposed to. Buckaroo's team, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, features everyone from Jeff Goldblum in a cowboy outfit to Ellen Barkin as Penny Pretty, the love interest with a past. But the real showstopper is John Lithgow as Dr. Emilio Lizardo, a villain so bonkers he makes mad scientists everywhere look subtle. Buckaroo and his team accidentally open a gateway to the eighth dimension and unleash a horde of evil aliens, led by Lithgow's over-the-top baddie, who are trying to take over the world. There are jet cars, brain surgery jokes, alien invaders disguised as defense contractors, and the kind of quotable lines you'll want to shout at your TV. The plot makes as much sense as a fever dream, and that's exactly the point. When it hit theaters, Buckaroo Bonsai baffled just about everyone, critics, audiences, even some of the cast. It barely made a ripple at the box office, but over the years, it's become a badge of honor for fans who love their movies strange, smart, and endlessly quotable. It's a love letter to every genre in the book, and proof that sometimes the weirdest movies are the ones that last forever. If you want to watch something that's pure, undiluted fun, this is your next obsession. Runaway 1984. Long before the tech-obsessed world we live in today, Michael Crichton's Runaway imagined a future where everyday machines might turn deadly, and only Tom Selleck's mustache could save us all. This is sci-fi, 80s style, all gleaming robots, analog screens, and a heavy dose of paranoia about what happens when technology gets out of control. Tom Selleck stars as Jack Ramsey, a police officer in a division that hunts down malfunctioning robots called Runaways in a near-future city crawling with gadgets. Ramsey's haunted by his own past, but he's the only one with the nerve and the mustache to take on the job. His latest case? A series of deadly accidents caused by household robots gone haywire, all tied back to a diabolical mastermind played by, wait for it, Gene Simmons of Kiss. Yes, the rock star, as a villain who programs killer microchips and hisses threats with wild-eyed glee. The action is relentless. Spider robots spitting acid, robotic bullets that track your body heat, and showdowns that are half police thriller, half dystopian nightmare. Cynthia Rhodes is Ramsey's partner, and Kirstie Alley turns up as a mysterious accomplice caught in the middle. Crichton, always one step ahead of the tech curve, loads the movie with now eerie predictions, surveillance, hacking, the fear that our own inventions might turn on us. Runaway didn't hit big, overshadowed by the flashier blockbusters of its day. But fans of techno-thrillers still swap stories about its bizarre gadgets, straight-faced performances, and the kind of earnest, imaginative plotting that screams 80s in all the best ways. For anyone worried that their smart fridge might someday go rogue, this movie will keep you up at night and grinning the whole time. Cloak and Dagger 1984. Think kids' movies were all light and fluffy in the 80s? Cloak and Dagger will blow that illusion right out of the water. This is a family adventure with real danger, a plot that could have come straight out of Cold War headlines, and a little hero who's braver than most grown-ups you'll ever meet. Forget about being coddled. This is the movie that tossed children into a spy thriller and dared them to survive. Henry Thomas, fresh off E.T., stars as Davy Osborne, a lonely San Antonio kid obsessed with video games and secret agents. His only real friend? An imaginary spy named Jack Flack, played with winking bravado by Dabney Coleman. But when Davy witnesses a real murder and stumbles across a game cartridge stuffed with military secrets, the line between make-believe and reality snaps in an instant. Suddenly, Davy is on the run, hunted by ruthless criminals and forced to use all his spy skills just to stay alive. Director Richard Franklin dials up the suspense, never pulling punches on the real stakes facing his young hero. The chases are breathless, the villains are genuinely scary, and every twist feels earned. Thomas brings grit and heartbreak to Davy, while Coleman balances comic timing with surprising warmth. The movie's blend of childlike imagination and adult-sized threats is part of what makes it unforgettable, and maybe a little too intense for some parents who expected another E.T. on release. Cloak and Dagger flew under the radar, overshadowed by blockbuster fare and dismissed as too dark for kids, too juvenile for adults. But ask anyone who watched it at the right age, and you'll see their eyes light up. This is the rare 80s adventure that respects its audience, delivering thrills, heart, and a blast of nostalgia that still hits home. If you want a movie that treats kids as smart, resourceful, and a little bit reckless, you just found your secret mission. River's Edge, 1986. Forget breakfast clubs and Pretty in Pinks. River's Edge is the 80s coming-of-age film that refuses to sugarcoat anything. This is the dark side of growing up. A movie that's both a razor-sharp indictment of suburban malaise and a snapshot of lost youth at its most numb, aimless, and quietly horrifying. No neon glow, no easy lessons, just a cold look at the world adults built and the kids left wandering in it. The story unfolds in a dead-end town, where a teenager, Daniel Roebuck, murders his girlfriend and casually shows her body to his friends. What follows isn't a quest for justice or a heroic cover-up. It's a disturbing exploration of apathy, how a group of young people, led by Keanu Reeves and Ione Skye, react with confusion, denial, and an eerie lack of urgency. Crispin Glover is a force of chaos as Lane, the self-appointed ringleader whose manic energy masks a desperate need for control. Director Tim Hunter keeps the atmosphere oppressive and unsettling, with a washed-out color palette and a soundtrack that's more dirge than dance party. Every scene vibrates with tension. What will these kids do? What will they refuse to do? Dennis Hopper lingers on the margins as a burnout who's seen it all and lost most of it along the way. There's no safety net here, just a sense that something's been broken for a long time and nobody knows how to fix it. Critics loved River's Edge for its raw honesty, but its brutal, uncompromising tone scared off mainstream audiences. Today, it stands as one of the most haunting American films of the decade, a slow burn that sticks with you long after the credits roll. For anyone who thinks the 80s were just about mall culture and synth pop, this movie is the cold splash of water you didn't know you needed. Manhunter 1986. Before Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter ever haunted your dreams, there was Manhunter, Michael Mann's pulse-pounding crime thriller that redefined what a serial killer movie could be. Forget the cliches. This is pure visual adrenaline, a stylish, synth-drenched descent into obsession and evil, and maybe the most underappreciated American thriller of the 80s. William Peterson stars as Will Graham, a burned-out FBI profiler dragged back from retirement to hunt down the Tooth Fairy, a serial killer as terrifying as he is elusive. Graham's secret weapon and greatest liability is his ability to think like his quarry, seeing the world through the eyes of a monster. Tom Noonan chills the blood as Francis Dollarhide, bringing an eerie, damaged humanity to a role that could have been pure caricature. And then there's Brian Cox, quietly sinister as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, the original screen version of the legendary cannibal. Mann's direction is immaculate. Every shot a splash of neon or a slash of shadow, every moment underscored by a haunting electronic score. The tension never lets up. The film's visual style is iconic. Cool blues, harsh whites, violent reds, setting the template for 1,000 crime shows to follow. The psychological cat-and-mouse game between Graham and his prey is as gripping as anything the decade produced. Manhunter was a box office disappointment, eclipsed by flashier thrillers and only rediscovered years later. But for fans of true crime, procedural drama, or just pure cinematic mood, this is the movie that set the bar. It's smart, stylish, and endlessly influential. A film that bites deep and doesn't let go. Watch it once, and you'll never forget the feeling. There you have it. 14 hidden gems that prove the 80s were way more than blockbusters and catchphrases. Maybe you've just found your next favorite movie, or maybe you're still arguing with the list. That's the fun of cinema. There's always another surprise around the corner. So which of these blew your mind, and which one did we miss? Drop your picks in the comments, hit subscribe, and keep exploring the wild side of movie history. See you in the next reel.